This is Candid Conversations with Dr. Mayfield, a podcast that resources families and friends with tools to have important conversations about mental and emotional health. This show is sponsored by Mayfield Counseling Centers, helping you find clarity, hope, and purpose. Here's your host, Trever Shirin.
Thank you for joining us. We are back and excited to have this conversation. This will build off a little bit from last week's conversation about the value of the person. Today we're talking about why we crave power, which begs the first question. Dr. Mayfield, do you think that people crave power?
Yeah. Turn on the news, especially in our country, and looking at how many people are running for president on the Democratic side, the fights that you have on, you see on any news channel among, and it's this, instead of collaborative effort, it's how can I one up somebody?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's not only in politics, right?
Right.
It's in everyday life.
Well, and there's a concept that was new to me when I started my counseling education that saw sexual assaults as not about sexuality or intimacy or anything like that, which I expected.
Right.
But it is mostly from power, power over another person, which really changed how I saw that aspect and started the conversation in my own head about what other things do we see in life and humanity that seem wrong to us that are actually birthed out of a longing for power.
I might throw this on its head a little bit. Is it a longing for power or is it a longing to be seen and valued?
I can see it being both.
Right,
yeah.
Which goes back to our conversation from last week. But it's, if you think about the bully, the abuser, the narcissist, the power-hungry individual, it doesn't matter who or how you get there. It's just that you get there.
Yeah.
Right. And, I think about my own story of being, and I call it abuse. The common term is still bullying, but it was, an individual that was trying to usurp their power, their authority, their whatever you want to call it, their size or whatever on somebody else. But we tend to not look at the reasons why.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is insecurity. It's not being seen. It's a faulty view of self.
Yeah. And a little self-disclosure. So I was actually on the opposite side where I was the bully through high school and middle school. And a lot of it came from this place where I had ADHD and really didn't feel in control of myself. And it was a way that I could take control over a situation in others. And also, self-deprecation has been a big part of my journey.
Sure.
And being able to have power over others or to dominate a room or whatever it looked like. And it wasn't as flashy as it sounds. It was more subtle. But that subtle amount of power was it fed something within me. And I think that is kind of what I want to get at today of like, what is that craving inside of, because I don't think that many people would disagree that they would enjoy having more power in their life and in the world. And we talk, there's the common phrase, if I was king of the world,
right,
or queen of the world or whatever, like
fame too.
Fame,
goes into there. But what is the core need? I think let's go back to talking through, maybe Maslow's hierarchy of needs or talking through an existential framework, going, what is that core longing that is being met? And one of the core longings is power, but I think healthy power is what they really were going after. But why do we crave power? Well, I honestly think we crave power because we crave that we are created as relational beings. And so we crave being seen. And if we're not seen in just our everyday life, then we find ways to compensate and strive to get there. And so if it is, going, okay, nobody sees me and I'm hurting, or nobody sees me and I'm blank, what can I do to be seen? a lot of times it's maladaptive ways of doing it, right? It's devaluing you, it's pushing you aside, it's one-upping you, it's degrading, whatever, so that I can be, hey, look, I'm better than Trevor.
Yeah. Well, and I like that concept because it's not necessarily true, but there is a stereotype of CEOs and people of power.
Watch it.
Right. Where if you think about the stereotypical CEO of some
Fortune 500 company or whatever, absolutely.
They're out for their own gain and their company's gain, and they will rip anybody apart who gets in their way. And so maybe it's two separate issues. There's the power that person has as CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and then there's also the emotional and developmental immaturity of they haven't met that core need. They're kind of feeding it with what we talked about in our sugar, fame, and porn episode. They're trying to feed a core longing with something that it doesn't fulfill.
Well, and I think this goes to another conversation too, that power without accountability is dangerous, right? And so a lot of these, and this is the thing, is we obviously stereotype. We just did with CEOs from Fortune 500 companies, but you see a lot because it's in the news. But you don't see the companies, where the CEOs have good accountability. They have a healthy EQ. They have a healthy mental health.
Because they're boring.
Right, because they're boring, right? They don't make headlines, but that are caring for their staff well.
Yeah.
I think of an individual that we know, and I won't go any farther than that, but that gave up part of the salary to care for staff. Right. Because it wasn't in the budget, but hey, staff care is really important to me.
Yeah.
I'm in charge, but I'm humble and I'm going to give up my, and so we don't hear those things, right? Because it doesn't make headlines. It doesn't sell whatever.
Yeah.
And, but, we just threw out, I think, about 5 different things that we could go, the EQ, the accountability, the value that they see in themselves. And I find that the most insecure people that I've ever met are the ones that are seeking power the hardest. A little bit of self-disclosure here of being CEO of Mayfield Counseling. There are days where I'm like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
Because of the weight of responsibility. And I think, but also be very honest as well, that there are days where I'm like, this is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of goes in that fluctuation, but I've got 3 or 4 mentors that will take me out at the knees and that's the accountability piece.
Yeah.
But I think the insatiable crave of power is not new.
Yeah.
So we go back in history and look at the value of people, like we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Is if we don't see value in people, then we're gonna walk all over them. And even if a group of people don't see value in themselves, that's prime place for somebody that is narcissistic or power hungry to step in and usurp.
Well, and
power.
I'm thinking about like gold fever too. Of gold is not evil.
No.
Yeah, and it's not an evil entity or anything like that, but it can infect us in a disease-like way where all we can think about, and this is pulled a lot from like movies and stuff,
sure.
But it has some truth to it, that this pursuit of money, this pursuit of
love of money,
more and more and more,
right?
It that's how we pursue some of our core longings, and it might be helpful to just mention here that there are core longings that have to be met, and we as people find ways to attempt to meet those needs, and that there is a core longing
for power
that can be met through various ways. Some are more adaptive than others.
So I think it goes back, the saying that the love of money is the root of all evil. It didn't say money is evil, right? It says the love of money is evil. Why? Because it becomes your focus. Power in and of itself is not evil.
Yeah.
I think it's how we use that
and how we pursue
it that could become evil. If the end all be all is power, I think that in some ways is evil.
Yeah.
But if I think of we are leading a company, we're leading a community, we're leading a country, a congregation, a faith group or whatever, and we're put into that position, but we, are not seeking more, but we're available and open to whatever happens. I think that's okay. Yeah. But it's that, I want to be that, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get there,
Yeah.
I think it's dangerous.
Well, and I think, too, it's important for us to recognize how much power we need in our lives. Because for some individuals, and this goes to our conversation about our definition of success.
Sure.
For some individuals, the amount of power that they need is just to be seen and heard by a few key people.
Right. And that's it.
And for others, it may be that I need to know that I have the power to protect these people under my care. And it changes from season to season. But once we recognize what we need, it's kind of like a budget or food planning, where we recognize, okay, I need lunch.
Right.
I don't need to go to a buffet and eat for 3 hours, though that would be really enjoyable and I'd like it.
Right now, yes, that sounds really good.
What I need is this many calories and this much water.
So you're talking about self-control.
Very much so.
Sure.
Because if we look at, there have been research studies on the amount of income that a family needs to be happy, and that once you reach that threshold, you could make 100,000 or millions more, and it doesn't affect your happiness level.
I think the most recent research was saying around 80 to 85,000. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so to recognize that and to put that as your goal, because that's meeting your basic needs. And when we have our basic needs met, we really are satisfied by life in a dramatic way. And I like the idea of being seen and heard as power, because if we have a voice, think about some of the greatest leaders in history, good and bad.
Right.
They led with their voice.
Sure.
And for us to recognize my voice is heard and I am seen, does that meet that core longing within me? And if it doesn't, how can I meet that core need? And here's our weekly plug for counseling.
Right.
I think a really beautiful place to do that is in the counseling room, where you can sit with another person. You can say the things that you wouldn't want to say to anyone else, and have them reflect back to you like, it sounds like you're looking for this and it's not enough. And I think that can be a really beautiful place to have this conversation if you're questioning it.
Well, and it's having somebody to bounce ideas off of, to say, am I crazy? And well, yeah, a little bit.
Especially a person who can actually say whether or not you're
Right,
crazy.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, I can diagnose you as crazy.
But I think even just going, okay, am I off base? Am I help me? And I've had clients from like, you probably should rethink that, or look at how that's come across, or and so having that, and I've had people do that to me, where it's challenging my thought processes, my perceptions, my even identity of how I see myself in the world. Yeah. And we need that. And that's where I think we're big advocates for counseling, in that it's not about being in crisis. It's about going, how can I better myself, is the reason to go to counseling. Yeah. Not, my hair's on fire.
Right. Right. Because we can prevent our hair catching on fire if we do some preventative work.
A lot of metaphors today.
A lot of metaphors. Didn't we talk a while ago about how metaphors are a counselor's bread and butter?
I think we did. It's been a while.
Well, yeah. Metaphors are a counselor's bread and butter.
Good ones, though.
Good ones.
Yeah.
We don't always have them.
No.
Sometimes the bread gets moldy and the butter.
Oh no! There's a bad one. Oh, that's awesome.
Well, okay, so let's bring it home with this discussion of power. I think it's undeniable that we do long for power in whatever amount it is, and we've identified that we crave that because there's a core longing in us where, in order to be a fully satisfied human being in life, we need that longing to be fulfilled. What's the takeaway?
I think the takeaway is really to take a step back and evaluate how you're allowing that core longing to be filled. I'm sure we could probably do, and I think we should do a couple episodes on the core longings, the 5 core longings. Yeah. Because I think that's going to really, and talk through. And I think, I don't know about you, I didn't know about the core longings until I got into my counseling program.
Right.
I mean, it made sense.
Totally.
Right. But So I think maybe we can share that with our listeners in the next couple of weeks. But I think it's really taking a look at going, okay, how is that core longing being met? How is this natural humanistic need for power being met? And am I lording over my kids? Am I taking it out on my spouse? Am I trying to one up people at work? What does that look like? Or is there a health to it? And if that's the case, let's look at what's working well.
Yeah.
And if it's working well at home and not at work, then what am I doing at home that's working well? And can I apply that to work? And that's the thing, is I don't want people to think this is rocket science. It's not. I think it's a humility. It's a reflective stance, and it's a willingness to be corrected for growth.
Yeah. And being present with yourself. We talk about that a lot in counseling. And if that's a foreign concept to yourself, I think we did one episode on it here.
We did. Yep.
And then we also have a show that has either started or will start, not entirely sure at the moment, called The Monday Minute, that will be on our Facebook page and Mayfield Counseling's YouTube channel. And a lot of that show is based around mindfulness activities that you can do that will keep you more present with yourself.
Yes.
And the beauty of that is the more present we are with ourselves, the more we understand about what's going on, and we can identify some of the process we've walked through today of I really am seeking power, but I'm doing that out of a desire to fill a core longing.
Right. And as always, if you need support, feel free to reach out at candid@mayfieldcounseling.com or give our wonderful inquiry coordinator, Adam Smith, a call at 719-452-4803 just to talk to somebody. And it could be a couple sessions. It could be something that you choose to do as maintenance for the next couple of months. But I really would encourage you that if you feel like you're a little bit off in this area, even that our conversation last week was about value, reach out.
And one last comment. I highly recommend that you consider maintenance appointments or even marriage maintenance appointments. I think the doctor every so often does a physical, and every 6 months for our dentist. We have these appointments and we don't think about our mental health, and to be able to go in and check up on our marriages, ourselves, can be really.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining Candid Conversations. If you would like more information, you can email candid@mayfieldcounseling.com or call 719-452-4803.